Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Please subscribe and keep watching more details. Joan Vassos reveals Gerry's divorce wasn't just about location. The Golden Bachelorette star, Joan Vassos, acknowledges many challenges with dating at her age. While she isn't going to give up her family, she understands some compromises need to happen. However, while discussing those negotiations, she reveals Golden Bachelor Gerry Turner and Theresa Nist's divorce wasn't just about location. Gerry Turner and Theresa Nist's weren't meant to be. Although the Golden Bachelorette, Joan Vassos has clearly said she isn't interested in moving away from her family, she is still open to dating someone from a distance. Undoubtedly, Joan learned from Gerry Turner and Theresa Nist's experience. Since they both have established families they are close to, they said that location became an issue. Sadly, after a speedy wedding, the couple divorced just 3 months later. But Joan is considering that issue when going through her journey to find love again. Joan Vassos understands she will need to compromise. After Joan Vassos' one-on-one date with Chalk Chapel, the issue of distance was brought up in an interview with Glamour. Since Joan lives in Maryland and Chalk lives in Kansas, if they continue to hit it off, then location is a big piece to the puzzle. When the subject came up, Joan said she had spent time thinking about the challenge of living and having a family in different states. She says, "You can't ask anybody to give up something that important. You have to compromise in other ways, which is making a bigger effort on each of your parts to see each other and maybe figure out another home where everybody comes to see each other sometimes." Previously, she just talked about meeting in the middle by resolving to pick the most important events to attend with each other's families, but finding solace in the idea they will have time apart. Admittedly, Joan says that dating at her age is hard. Joan Vassos reveals Gerry's divorce wasn't just about location. During the interview, they joked about having an airline sponsorship to make the travel back and forth easier across the country. Undeniably, it seems like a perfect match for Bachelor Nation to partner with an airline and promote the ease of finding love away from home. Furthermore, the interviewer talks about how their locations were the big pitfall for Gerry Turner and Theresa Nist, who live in Indiana and New Jersey. Laughingly, Joan Vassos calls them out. She says, "I know, come on. What's the big deal? Get on Southwest Airlines." But she divulges, "But there were bigger problems there." Joan alludes to Gerry and Theresa having unresolvable issues that didn't solely include the location problem that was stated. Although she didn't completely spill the tea, she gave enough information for Golden Bachelor fans to connect the dots, confirming there is more to their divorce than they vocalized. Undoubtedly, Joan understands that her relationship will require sacrifices with the time spent together with a new man. What do you think about Joan Vassos outing Gerry Turner and Theresa Nist having other issues on top of the distance? Are you enjoying this season of The Golden Bachelorette? Drop your comments below. Joan Vassos had always been an open book, a trait that was both a blessing and a curse in her life. Her friends knew everything about her, her struggles, her triumphs, her whirlwind romance with Gerry, and ultimately, the heartbreaking divorce that seemed to come out of nowhere. But as Joan sat down for a candid interview, she revealed that there was much more beneath the surface of that story than anyone had known. It wasn't just about location, as many had speculated. The divorce was the result of years of accumulated resentment, miscommunication, and unmet expectations. And in Joan's world, the emotional weight of that revelation was nothing short of monumental. ***, the beginning of the end ***. Gerry Vassos had been the love of Joan's life, at least in the beginning. They met in college, both pursuing degrees in architecture, and their connection was instant. The late-night study sessions turned into romantic dinners, and before long, they were inseparable. Everyone who knew them thought they were destined for a life of marital bliss. But, as Joan now admits, even from the start, there were signs that they weren't as perfectly matched as they had once thought. The first real challenge in their marriage came when Gerry was offered a prestigious position with a high-profile firm in Chicago. At the time, Joan had just begun her own promising career in New York, working for a boutique architectural firm that had offered her a partnership opportunity. They were both ambitious, both passionate about their work, and neither of them wanted to compromise. We were at a crossroads, Joan reflected, her voice tinged with sadness. I had this amazing opportunity in New York, and he had this once-in-a-lifetime offer in Chicago. We thought, at first, that we could make it work, that we could do the long-distance thing for a while and then figure something out. But it was harder than we anticipated. The strain of the distance soon began to erode the foundation of their marriage. Weekends were spent on airplanes or video calls, but something was always missing. The intimacy and connection that had once defined their relationship were fading, and they were both too focused on their careers to fully acknowledge it. The miscommunication that broke them. One of the most significant problems that led to Joan and Gerry's divorce wasn't just the physical distance, but the emotional one that grew between them. Joan spoke openly about how their inability to communicate their feelings became the slow poison that ate away at their relationship. We were both so caught up in our own worlds that we stopped talking about the things that really mattered, Joan explained. We would talk about our work, our schedules, and logistics, but we never really talked about what we were feeling. And after a while, it became easier to just avoid those conversations altogether. It wasn't that they didn't love each other anymore. That was never the issue. Joan and Gerry had deep, abiding love for one another. But love alone wasn't enough to sustain their marriage. Joan admits that she often felt like she was carrying the emotional burden of their relationship on her own, while Gerry was preoccupied with his own success. There were so many things I wanted to say to him, but I didn't know how, she said. I didn't know how to tell him that I felt lonely, even when we were together. I didn't know how to tell him that I needed more from him emotionally and physically. And by the time I did figure out how to say those things, it was too late. He had already checked out. The breaking point came one evening during one of their rare weekends together in New York. Joan had planned a romantic dinner for two at their favorite restaurant, hoping to rekindle the spark that had once been so strong between them. But Gerry, distracted by work, spent the entire evening on his phone, barely engaging in conversation. Joan finally broke down, admitting that she couldn't continue living like this. The emotional distance between them had become unbearable. He just looked at me and said, "I don't know how to fix this," Joan recalled, tears welling up in her eyes. And that was the moment I realized that our marriage was over. We were both so lost in our own lives that we couldn't find our way back to each other. The true reason behind the divorce. In the aftermath of their divorce, rumors began to circulate that it had been all about the location. Joan's refusal to leave New York and Gerry's reluctance to return. But Joan is quick to clarify that this narrative oversimplified what had really happened. The location was a symptom of the deeper issues in their relationship, not the cause. It was never just about where we lived, Joan emphasized. It was about so much more than that. It was about feeling neglected, about feeling like I wasn't a priority in his life anymore.